Wendy Capewell, a counsellor and psychotherapist. On a daily basis, I talk to people who feel they're the only ones struggling with the issues they share with me. So each of my guests have their story to share, whether it's about themselves or in their relationships, in the hope that you feel it's not just you. Today I've got Clare with me. He's a motivational speaker, autism advocate, author and founder of CrazyFitnessGuy. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love you to tell the listeners more about you.
So I'm an autism advocate, and I like to talk about how autism is not the end of the world. We just need the right tools and the right people in our lives so we can live a more fulfilling life than just stocking shelves in a grocery store or I don't know, counting stuff in a cartridge. Our talents are kind of wasted.
Absolutely. I think that's a shame when people just feel that they have that viewpoint. I think you prove it because you're so prolific on social media. You write blogs, you run your own podcasts, and there's much more to you than that. And I think you are a great advocate for this situation. So, yeah, let's get the word out, Jimmy?
So true. This is only my sunny first podcast guest appearance. So
Really? Okay.
I didn't stop at. I think I'm just gonna keep going from once I reach 100. So
Good for you. Good for you. I love podcasts. I love talking to people, and I'm always interested in people, and I'm always curious and about people in general. And I do have clients who are on the autistic spectrum, but I think it's important for me. I want to know how it affects their lives. I don't like working with labels. Anybody who listens to my podcast knows that I really don't like labels. Sometimes I think it helps people, when they're struggling with a situation, go, oh, that's what that's about. Now I get what's going on for me. But the danger is that others can feel, oh, I understand, when they don't.
so true.
So tell us more about you. Tell us, when were you first aware that you were on the spectrum?
Well, my parents were aware of it when I was around in second or third grade, and basically they made the doctors. This doctor made me do different kinds of tests. I don't remember what the tests were. Because I just basically, my parents just took me, and it was like once a week, maybe twice a week. And at least the nice part was it got me out of school on some days. So I was like, oh, I'm leaving school. Okay. I'll go anywhere. Because I didn't like school back then at all. And,
Right.
and so and after all these different tests, the doctor basically told my parents, and I could overhear a little bit of what they were saying, but none of it made any sense to me. And probably because I had my head buried in my video games. And because, who really wants to be in a doctor's office anyway? And it wasn't just like a regular doctor's office, but I'll paint a picture for everyone real quick. If anyone has ever seen the show The Sopranos, and you see Tony Soprano talking to a shrink, well, you see he's those plain brown walls. Well, that was basically that office that I went to. Maybe not
Oh,
the same exact layout and everything, but I remember the brown walls. I remember just everything. It's like, yep, I was in the kind of office.
That's so off-putting, isn't it?
Yeah. And so basically I just like, well, I was like, well, at least I'm not in school at the moment. Uh, But then on the downfall, I was like, can I be anywhere but here? And so I used video games a as an escape from realities because I didn't know what any of that what they were talking about. So I was like, okay, sounds like I'm different. Okay. I'm still human. I'm not an alien. Uh, pretty sure. Uh, and so, but I didn't really find out for myself until I started going to my own IEP meetings, which stands for Individual Educational Plan. And that was right like in 11th or 12th grade. And what's funny, I thought I would have to be a politician in order to sit on a meeting that I didn't have any control over. But apparently I did not because I was, because in that meeting, even though the meeting was all about me, I still didn't get to decide anything. And I was like, so
Wow.
then why the hell am I even here? It's like, but we're welcoming you in here. Yeah, I'll just go back to class and be bored.
And I wonder what I felt like not having any control or just being told, not having any input.
Well, basically, I just sat at the table twiddling my thumbs, and it felt like, well, people were welcoming me as an adult, but I still, but I thought it was totally ridiculous that I had to sit there and my parents still had to come because it's like, okay, I'm at the age that I can drive my own car, but I can't even but I can't even talk about what would work for me. And it's like, I'm pretty sure I know me more than everyone else knows me. When that makes sense, guess not. It's like it's one thing. I feel like sometimes these IEP meetings they just assume that I was like, okay, he's autistic, so he can't speak for himself.
Mm,
No, it's like not. It's like not everyone on the spectrum uh, can speak for themselves, but for me, I can speak for myself. And if you give me a chance, I'll literally never shut up.
yeah.
Once I get going, I'm like on my soapbox all day long.
But that I can't imagine what that's like, just they had a set program, they knew how you were, what you needed without checking with you. I mean, it's not the first time I've heard that with somebody who's got, I'm going to say a disability, um, but I don't see autism as a disability. Maybe you do. I just think it's a different way of being. But we get to, you know, what do you need? What do we need? What is it? What's going on for us? Even if we have, like, I work with a lot of people who've got problems, some with mental health issues, but there are other, well, it is all of it really, because if it's affecting our emotions, then it's affecting our emotional, physical, mental health. And but I think, people just get treated in one way. Well, this is what you need. Actually, it's not. What do you need? What is it you're looking for? What do you need help with? And not asking somebody is really disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but it's like what that one person needs, someone else might not need it. Like, uh, for me, uh, when I was looking for, uh, uh, like, basically ninth, 10th, and 11th grade, uh, I needed a one-on-one support person to help her to come to each class with me because my handwriting really is terrible. Uh, like it, trying to keep up with the teacher and writing notes is hard for me because I'm more of a person who can listen for a whole hour and and if it's a class I'm interested, I can literally spit back to you pretty much what the majority of what I what I took away from the class. But if I had to write notes at the same exact time and try to keep up with the teacher, my my handwriting goes really south really quick. I just try to squeeze everything in on the page, does not work. And uh, and as the teacher's going fast to the PowerPoints or whatever, or writing too quick on the board, or the teacher handwriting is all cursive, and I can't, depending on who's writing, how bad. I mean, I don't say cursive writing is bad, but if it's like sloppy cursive or it's too fancy style cursive, I can't read it. I'm like, what's that word?
So what happens for you when that's going on?
Uh,
I mean, what comes up for you?
for me,
Feelings.
like basically, for me, I feel like I start getting overwhelmed and I'm not taking in the information. I'm just writing down what the teacher just wrote down on the board. And it's like, I'm not even learning anything. And some people might say, well, I learn that way. Well, I don't learn that way. I'm a visual learner, but I can also read by reading instructions, depending they if they are good instructions. Like I'll give you an example. The other day, I was trying to figure out something for my newsletter tool for my website, and uh, and it occurred to me that the instructions that I was reading was missing a step because like there's got to be another piece of this somewhere because in the video that they give, it wasn't even in there, and even in the written directions, it still wasn't in there. So I was like, okay, how did he get from point A to point B? And it's like there's got to be like a middle step somewhere. Or I was like, oh, it's A to C, and it's like, where's B? And um, and so eventually I reached out to support, and they uh, told me what happened, and they helped me fix it. But it just for me, it's like if you're missing a step, uh, I get very overwhelmed, and so I'm more of a visual learner, and they started giving me screenshots and the emails because it's like, look, I learn differently. You need to give me more than, well, here with these different bullet points. And it's like it doesn't work for me. You need to give me a screenshot, and so I can basically showcase what's on my account back at me. It's like, oh, that's the step I was missing.
Yeah. So, and you're right. I think we all learn differently. I think this is not unusual for a lot of people. If you give me a load of text, I don't take it in if it's instructions. I go, toss the instructions aside. If I can see something visual, then I can follow that more readily. So I get what you're saying, but for you, it feels like it's much more overwhelming and bothersome.
Yeah, definitely. And and then it always feels like when I have to Google like what's going on, I get all these different troubleshooting steps, and a lot of them sometimes work, but then other times where it doesn't work, and I'm like, I am overloaded, and my brain is gonna explode.
Right. That must be really uncomfortable if you feel like that.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
can I ask what happens to you? Do you shut down? Do you get angry? How does that affect you? Do you withdraw? Do you?
Basically, I start withdrawing, and and I feel like my brain kind of has like an off and on switch where it just like shuts down because if I yes sometimes like I read these articles about different algorithms from Google and whatnot, and it sounds so complicated, but then later on when you see another article that explains it in a different way, I was like, really? That was what was overwhelming me. I was like, it sounded so complicated the first time when it was written. The second time, it's like, well, that doesn't sound like a major update at all. And I was like, it gets so
Okay.
technical, and even though some of my, even though some people say like, "Oh, it's nothing to be overwhelmed by," and it's like, well, it overwhelms me because I don't know what they're always saying, and I kind of want it in bullet points, where some people just go into so many different like large paragraphs, and when I'm reading it,
Mm,
it's like, I don't even want to read this. And it's like, I just want to, it's like, here, give me the actionable steps. Step one, do this. Step two, do this. Step three,
yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
Cut out the middle junk for me. I was like, I don't know. I don't need to know when this update was released and why they
Mm,
did this. I was like, just tell me on how I can fix this, or
yeah.
what can I do on my platform to do this, or how can I implement this?
Yeah. So that I hear that's really important for you.
Yeah.
How, tell me, if I may ask, how does it affect relationships or interactions with people?
For me, uh, I have a close group of friends, and I'm close with all my family members. Um, so my experience is different than other people on the spectrum. Like, I don't really feel like any of my uh, relationships. I mean, for my friends and family, I don't think any of them has ever. I, yeah, none of them has ever treated me differently. No one has ever treated me like, oh, and it's like, you're not normal, or you're weird or whatnot. Um, yeah, it's funny. Uh, some some of my family members knew that I was autistic before I even knew,
Mm,
and some of them were just told later on in life about me being different, but no one ever brought it up like, "Oh, you're different." They just treat me like part of the family. They always joked around with me. They every time when I flew to Chicago to my to see uh, my cousins on my mom's side of the family, everybody always was happy to see me and always wanted to hang out, and we always stayed up late. Uh, yeah, wasn't the smartest ideas, but we didn't really care because it was literally on some of the like last nights when we were hanging out with each other. Our plan when it was like 6 o'clock. Like we were had to leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning anyway, and so I was like, eh. We stayed up like 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, yeah, we just sleep on the plane. Like, we didn't want to go home anyway, so why not?
Why not? Nice for living. Yeah. So yeah, so it seems like you've got a network of people around you who just treat you normally and accept you, and there's nothing you feel uncomfortable about. So I guess I brought that up because one of my clients is on the spectrum, but she was telling me how she's always worried and about saying the wrong thing. So she's constantly checking out what she says before she says it because she's frightened of saying something wrong. And I wondered if that was, you'd experienced that at all?
Uh, I really think for me, it's quite the opposite,
Okay.
where sometimes I do put my own. Let me rephrase that. Most times I put my own foot in my mouth multiple times. I think it's part of who I am, and but I'm not afraid when I admit when I'm wrong, and it's like, and if anybody saw some of my Twitter stuff on out there on Facebook, I've I've have I've called out companies for certain things, and if I'm wrong on certain things, like, and I always say in my opinion or my observation because I know I could be wrong, and if I am
Mm,
wrong, I say, oh, my mistake, and I literally go back out there and make the correction and not just say, oh, I'm just gonna leave it as a rant and and I think people can appreciate that because like wow he's calling these companies out and I'm not calling them out because I'm a hot-headed uh, tool. I'm calling them out because uh, uh, just because like something's not working, like so I'm uh, uh, like tweeting with the company because it's faster than email support and
mm,
it's and so it's not like so it's not always just like a rant to them. It's like, okay, I'm asking for help, but I didn't want to wait for email support because, you know, because of COVID-19, everything is backed up. And so I was like, okay, I might get a better chance on Twitter from an answer. And I was like, even if it's just like a quick answer, if it's a quick a yes or no question, please just answer. I was like, I'd rather
yeah,
have that than wait for an
yeah,
email. It's like, yes.
yeah. So it sounds, and we're talking, we're saying that everybody has, it affects people in different ways. Everybody's different, like we all are, we're all different. But I think it was interesting to notice how there is a difference between two people on the spectrum. My client who is very, very it makes her so tired because she's constantly checking out what she's saying before she says it, worried about what's going to happen. Whereas you take a different stance. For you, it's I'll say it, and if it's wrong, then I'll apologize. So it feels very different, doesn't it? And I think that's an interesting point. As well, it sort of affects people differently.
Yeah. And some of those stuff that I said like years ago, and this was not like on social media at the time, but like I did metaphorically burn bridges with people because of stuff I said. And and some of the people that I burned bridges with, no skin off my nose because I didn't want to stay in touch with those people, or they still, or years later, they they still see me as the person I was years ago, and it's like if you can't see that I'm different, have a nice life. I was like, because I know I'm totally different than what I used to be. Uh, like I kid you not, like yesterday, I was having a lot of I I started doing this weekly live stream for my own podcast,
Okay.
and I was getting overwhelmed because of my other calendar tool deleted my events, and so years ago, I feel like if I was doing this years ago, I would have literally shut down. I would have just, you know, and forget there's no weekly live stream this week. But I just started messaging some of my, uh, I would say acquaintances slash friends because I literally just met them. But if we built up a friendship, I would call them friends. So I would say acquaintance slash friends. So because they're friendly people, but uh, but I've only like talked to them once or twice, but it was like more than once and twice, and we got to have more of a conversation later on, and it'd be like, okay, we're friends, whatever. I got on a rant, but so I just started messaging people. And one of them replied to me, is like, "Yeah, I'm available on Friday night." I was like, "Okay, good. See you on my show." And so he agreed. And so I was like, "You just literally saved the week." and and so and so And so he filled out the form and everything, and so I got to promote it still within like started promoting yesterday, so I'm gonna promote it again today. I was like, not the way I really wanted to go, but I turned it around. And it was like years ago, I would have just like, it's off. See, and I'm not doing it. And
Right.
I was like, what a change in events.
Right. So you're really noticing the difference in the way you're responding to things. And I think, what I'm hearing is you could teach an awful lot of people about how you approach the world, because it seems like you are much more comfortable in your own skin than an awful lot of people I know.
I try to be.
Well, I think you sound like you are.
Well, years ago, if uh, if you saw me years ago and met me years ago, you'd be like, okay, how does this person went from being very, very shy to being very, very outspoken who can't shut up?
Mm.
uh, and what's funny, my mom told me this story, and I really love this story, where her friend's husband, like I wasn't reaching my milestones at a certain at, when I was born, from just because I, I don't know, it just took me a while to learn how to walk and talk, and so and my parents were both worried that I was not going to talk and whatnot, and my mom's friend's husband said to her, I was like, "Don't worry about him not talking. One day he'll never shut up," and I haven't shut up since. And
You
I,
made up for lost time.
yeah, and so now when my parents always talk about the story, it's like, I gave you your time. Now it's my time. I gave you a few years.
Oh, that's a lovely story. That's a lovely story. I want to ask you now, um, how do you like to be approached if you meet new people? What is it you need? What would you want to be asked to make your life easier, or for even the relationship easier?
I think one of the things that would make it easier for me and easier for people on the spectrum is that I never liked when people say, uh, uh, like when my parents get mad, like you can tell in their voice, but sometimes if they're not showing or if they're not like i- if it's not in their voice, but then they're kind of just like kind of have an edgy tone, I can't really tell the difference. It might just my my house has a lot of echoing halls, so I can always tell if it's their voice or just it's echoing across the room because the house is just has some bigger ceilings that I would never ever have in my own house, uh, because I would never want to change a light bulb in that room. Uh,
Right.
you have to be Tarzan to do that, or Spider Man. Um, but I never liked the feeling. I don't always know when people are always angry or upset or just any kind of emotion whatsoever. And and back in uh, back in middle school, my seventh grade and eighth grade teacher came up with a system to help me to let them know when I'm feeling angry and frustrated. And it was this card system. And like green meant I was good, yellow means I was kind of on the line of being frustrated and everything else. And red means get me the hell out of here or or it's
Ah,
gonna become a one wild ride. And and so I think one of the things that would help would be I shouldn't. I feel like I shouldn't have to guess what the person's feeling. Tell me.
Right,
Don't assume that it's like, well, can't you tell by the look on my face? I'm sorry, I can't always read facial cues. I can't read minds. Maybe someone else
right.
can, and the tone of your voice doesn't always. It might sound like, oh, you're mad, but it could be mean that you're mad by someone else, or I don't know if that's with me. So
So you like people to be straightforward
yeah,
and say, I'm feeling angry, I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm a bit off today, or something like that. That is
yeah.
better for you. And so do you need to be able to say that to people?
Well,
Because you used to use a colouring system, which I think is great for youngsters. What a great tip. But do you still use that, or what do
I was
you
hoping to get
need?
back into that, to use it again, uh, but I got so wrapped up in a lot of different projects that that project is kind of is on hold, and
Mhm.
uh, but one of the things uh, uh, that I found really interesting that read in an article like a few years ago where Google had these glasses called Google Glasses, and they were about to throw it into Google's graveyard full of projects that never took off. And what I really liked about this article is that a school uh, took got one of those pair of glasses and did an, es- like an experiment and had like five kids use them and and they were all on different ends of the spectrum and in the middle of the
Right,
spectrum. And what they found out is that these glasses, and this was just one research study, so there's probably still studying it and then but what I liked about it is that so each kid got to go home with their family and try it for a certain amount of time. I forget all the details, but those kind of details because I don't know what I did with the article. I jumped for so many different tools of saving articles. I don't remember what happened to them.
mm.
Uh, Note to self: don't do that again. Uh, and so one of the things that I liked about this article is that a lot of these kids started to having a lot of better relationships with their parents and friends and family because these glasses were helping them see social cues and read social cues better. And it's
Right,
like, now Google, now you have a way to keep these glasses. And it's like, now you just need to make them affordable because the price tag was, if I remember, the price tag was like in the like $3,000 range. And it's like,
wow.
okay, you need to lower that like as a cell phone cost or something because
Mm,
uh, it's like that's one thing I think that if you're gonna start, if companies are gonna start, and it wasn't like Google's um, goal to make technology for the autism community, but I mean, not to be like rude to them or anything, but I mean, they wanted to there's a cool type of glasses. I don't know what the point was. The glasses of I've had to do more research on that, but I just thought it was cool that a school did a college, a university did this research on these glasses, and I was like, wow. Now if only some of these companies would start making technology like this, because when I read that, it's like, now where was my cheat sheet when I when I was in school? I probably didn't want
yeah,
done all the crap back then if I knew uh, what people were feeling
okay,
uh, uh, or what their social cues were to me. Um, uh,
okay,
and when I saw that, I was like, "Can I still have a cheat sheet? Where's my cheat sheet?" I was like,
yeah.
of
So
course, technology improves in time instead of instead of me. And I was like, come on, please.
Yeah. So you've explained how you like people to be straightforward with you. And I would like to know what you need. So if I met you for the first time, Jenny, how would it be? Do I ask you how you are? Do I ask you how you're feeling? What is it you need to be able to connect with somebody? What feels comfortable with you?
I think one of the things that I like when people do is just ask how you are, how you doing, and make small talk. I notice and it doesn't even have to be small talk. It could just be conversation after conversation, uh, because I like that. It's like when I was looking for new doctors when I grew out of my seeing my pediatrician, uh, and and it was hard for me to find a doctor that I could trust and like because some I had this one doctor, not gonna say any names, but he had a personality of a brick wall. Like I kid you not,
Mm,
like like he was nice, but it, I was so uncomfortable in his office because um, as once he was uh, uh, done evaluating me or whatever, or I don't know, done with our appointment, whatever. He always starts typing on his computer, and then so I start trying to make conversation, and he might say, "Mm-hmm, yeah," and I was
right.
like. Okay, Doc, as I'm not asking for a full-blown conversation, but can you make me feel at least like, hey, I want to have a working relationship with you, but it's like in and out, like I'm just a statistic. And I was like, no thanks.
Mm,
And so then I went to this other one, and she made small talk, but but then let's just say that doctor, she did something that she wasn't supposed to do, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but so then I didn't go back to that person,
right.
and then, but then when one of my friends actually became one of my neighbor's friends actually became a doctor, and so then I moved to that person and like he was always nice to me when I was growing up and seeing him at parties and everything. And so we just connected right off the bat. And
Mm,
so now I've been with him for less than a year at the moment because I think I only got to him like last year. Yeah, it's right in smack down in the middle of the pandemic. But I didn't mean to jump from doctor to doctor, but I needed that level of just communication and then like just rush me out there. It's like it takes me time to create a sentence in my head, and and if I'm gonna, it's like eventually I'm gonna have to start uh, figuring out what all this medical stuff is, so I can live on my own eventually. And so how am I supposed to do that and be rushed out of the room at the same time? It doesn't work.
mm. No, definitely not. And I think most of us feel that way anyway, because otherwise, like you say, you feel like a number and you feel dismissed, not helpful. So I really enjoyed our conversation today. I feel we've just got at the tip of what goes on for you, and it's interesting because you've got lots of interesting stories. But what is one thing that anyone listening can take away with them today?
I think one of the things that people could take away would be just because someone's autistic, they're not going to be. It's different for everyone on the spectrum. It's not one size fits all, and I think I think every single education system has gonna have to be revamped eventually because just because we're in a special education class, I think that I think, and I'm not saying like this is true to, and it's not directed at all teachers, but
Mm,
there's only certain teachers who can teach at each individual level of people in the special education classes, or at least you might need two. So that meets the different requirements of certain students and whatnot. Because I was fortunate enough in middle school where even though I had a higher reading level than my friends back then,
mm,
and in my special education classes, and like I was reading at a college level, and like they were reading at a, I wouldn't say slow pace, but they were reading not like, uh, like put it this way, I was reading the Harry Potter books in like seventh grade, and I'm not saying they were like hard books, but they're, let's just say they were harder books than what the average student in my class was reading back then.
yeah. So
And
so the bottom line is that we're all different. We're
yeah,
all different. Yeah. So I'm going to put all your details in the show notes, Jimmy. One easy way that people can find you, and I think I know what it is. We're going to find you everywhere. But tell people the easiest way to find you.
the easiest way is just to go to crazyfitnessguy.com, and or you can go Google Jimmy Clare and I show up on the very first page, or you can go Google Crazy Fitness Guy. I show up on the very first page. I
Wow.
knocked off Richard Simmons. Sorry, Richard Simmons.
Well done, you. I've really enjoyed this today, Jimmy. Thank you so much for being a guest again today,
Thanks for
and
having me.
I hope it's helped. Um, yeah, unravel some of these myths that people have around the autistic spectrum.
Definitely.
I hope you found this episode interesting as well as helpful. Do get in touch if you would like to learn more about working with me. My email address is info@wendykapewell.co.uk. Take good care of yourself. Until next time.